Oh, Jan just joined us. So let's get ahead and get started today. I think what we'll spend most of today working on is so I got some ideas from some of the group, and I kind of wanted to spend more of the time discussing it. But we also have Officer Harita with the Reston station that kind of wanted to present a couple slides first for the group, just to kind of help us get reoriented. And I know you guys all know the area, but I think it'd be helpful for her to just go through her slides first, and then we can get into the discussion. And then one of the items that the group asked was to produce a map of kind of the parcel ownership, kind of understanding, because RA owns some of it, and Robin knows this, but there's also individual homeowners, and then the Pinecrest cluster has some boundary where the right of way is on Pinecrest. I think it would be just helpful to get started. And Officer Harita, are you ready? And I'm happy to present the slides for you.
Yes, I am ready. In one moment, I'm just going to pull them up on my end, and let's see, I'll wait for the screen to flip. Okay, and then give me one moment. Okay, so again, just to reorient everyone, I placed some pictures in a very quick PowerPoint, along with some steps that I've seen taken with many other community projects like this and community improvement projects. So again, we're looking at the Pinecrest Road and Glade Drive area. And you can go to the next one. Thank you. All right, so here you see an overall map of the area. North is facing up. You will see Pinecrest and Glade Drive, as well as the various neighborhoods, the Southgate Community Center, Southgate Square, the Glades, and of course, further to the west, you would have Dogwood Elementary School. Looking at the major points that we've discussed previously are labeled by A, B, C, and D. Of course, you see on label A is along Glade Drive, and C as well, where we do have parking. There's also parking along D, Pinecrest Road, but some of the areas, of course, are marked out for safety reasons, that there's no parking for line of sight, for pedestrians, for the bus stop that's there, that's used in front of the Southgate Community Center. And of course, B, which the RA Trailhead comes out at. And you all know that there is, looks like abandoned vehicles currently just being stored in that location. And I know that was a subject of discussion. So I just wanted to put this on an overhead map, so we'd have that orientation to the area. All right, if you'd like to go to the next. I was looking at the Southgate area down here and trying to figure out where the sidewalks were ending. Sidewalks were going to nowhere, or we had those unutilized areas. So of course you see here we're facing north. The Southgate Community Center is on your right, and the Resting Glades is on your left. On the left with the Resting Glades, marked with the letter A, you see the sidewalk that stops essentially before it gets to the curb. It leads to nowhere. And that's where I think we're all in agreement that we're seeing a lot of the youth crossing over to get directly to B, which is the Southgate Community Center side of the street. So that's one point of concern, along with any traffic concerns that would come on Pinecrest Road, which is the 25-mile-per-hour zone. If you'd like to go to the next. All right, here we see facing south on Pinecrest Road is that area where abandoned vehicles are either being stored or worked on, or maybe people are parking there at that area. There's also another Reston Association trailhead that comes out at that location behind the trees. So that's another way for people to travel on foot towards the amenities of the Southgate Community Center, but it may lead to kind of that endpoint where you don't have obvious access to the crosswalks and to the sidewalks of the area. And next. All right, we have the Reston Association trailhead that's ending on the west side of the community center. You saw this in the earlier slide. This is close to the sidewalk from the resting glades that ends and leads to the community center. So here's another footpath, and we've spoken about this as well in the past from the RA Trailhead that it provides access to the amenities of the Southgate Center, but that should also be taken into consideration when we think about pedestrian traffic, getting people there safely, and then, of course, which was mentioned in the last meeting, the safety and security of the trails and the pathways and the sidewalks in this entire area, of the Southgate Community Center, of Pinecrest, of Glade, and of all of the residential areas that we have around there. And next. So I've been thinking about the next steps with the projects because everyone has been presenting such great ideas and such great ideas for solutions to some of these concerns, some of these problems, and just overall general improvements to the area. So I just put this together as the next steps going forward as maybe a plan or a template that we need to make movement on it. There is going to be some bottlenecks with community improvements like this, some unavoidable red tape, but that's nothing that we can't work through and nothing that we can't brainstorm and troubleshoot to get around to get good community solutions and good community improvement. And those bottlenecks are only in the form of engineering, of monetary restrictions, time and resources, things like that. But since we have such a great community representation here, I think there's a lot we can do. If you go to the next. So just 5 steps here I've listed as identifying areas of concern. For example, we've already spoken about potential speeding issues, parking or lack thereof parking, lack of good marked crosswalks for especially the youth to get across to the Southgate Community Center amenities and to the other residential areas coming from those residential areas and from Dogwood Elementary School. So going with identifying areas of concern such as speed or sidewalks, we identify those areas for potential improvement and then gather suggested improvements, which we've all been doing this whole time. It's that brainstorming process, that what if we did this? What if we put a marked crosswalk, fix the sidewalk, and maybe put a speed bump on that crosswalk, or the crosswalk on a speed bump going across the Southgate Community Center. And I can't tell you right now if all of these improvements are possible right away. I did place a call to VDOT because I wanted to gain some further information before the meeting, what options we had with these areas and with the area that the abandoned cars are at. I hadn't received a phone call back from the area manager, so I look forward to hearing from him and having that discussion and then forwarding that information to you all as a community group so that we can have that valuable information going forward when we are brainstorming. So gathering the suggested improvements for the areas of concern, and then we need to decide on what might be the best ones and then forward those to the applicable agencies, VDOT, FCDOT. And then once those are either approved or they come back to us with changes, we have to look at the potential community resources we have. One of the things I looked at, and I'm just throwing this out there because I'm brainstorming too, that abandoned vehicle area in some of the other cities and locations, they removed that, and then they didn't quite have the funds to tear that up, repave it, and turn it into something else. So they put very large, immovable and safe planters to block off that area, but still make it so the pedestrians can walk around them. And then they painted the planters, maybe had some of the youth paint the planters, and then it presented just a nice community feel to it. One of the other theories that I heard is when you do these improvements like this and these the environmental improvements as well, it makes the whole area feel more residential, more community-like. And I know that's a broad statement, but it often slows down speed because it gives the people the perception that this isn't, you know, strictly business area or strictly commuter area. There are people here. It's the environment of people and the environment of community that makes people slow their speeds. Just a theory. I like it. But number 4, law enforcement assistance, whether we need to get out there and do speed campaigns, um, uh, anything like that, education and enforcement as needed. And then 5, we need to keep up and address the trails and security concerns, which were mentioned on the prior meeting, so that we do have a continuous flow of pedestrians, bikers, and everybody using all of the community and feeling safe doing so. And of course, your local law enforcement resting station plays a big part of that. And we have the resources to be able to provide you with that, whether it's crime prevention through environmental design, whether it's extra patrol, working with the community and hearing the concerns, as we have been. And that just kind of wraps up. Thank you for listening to me. That kind of wraps up what I've been thinking and just shows you a few maps and a few visuals, and kind of shows you the idea process going forward in order to streamline this so we can see some good results for this whole area. And thank you, Mr. Delsed.
No, thank you, Officer Harita, and no, thank you for showing us the kind of coming from your perspective, some strategies that this group can kind of incorporate in any of the recommendations they have. I guess if they're, I mean, I know that this group is really familiar with the area, but I guess if you guys had any questions for Officer Harita, maybe that would be, we can go there, and then we can go to the next part of our meeting where we're kind of like building our matrix of ideas and addressing some of these issues. Andy, Gary, and maybe we'll just circle around with the group. Yeah, go ahead.
Jose, could you go back to the slide that shows the bump out?
Yeah.
Thanks.
I think it's this one.
Yeah, that's the one. I almost would like to have Officer Harita first. That was great. Thank you so much for putting this as a summary so it's all organized. That was awesome. Thank you.
Absolutely.
I was almost like an A prime on here at the end of the crosswalk on the right side that crosses Glade, where, you know, Robin and I did a walk once, and it is really that also that at the very end, I guess that's the southwest corner, you know, where it just, you know, there's a nice accessible, it's even got the, you know, the accessible, you know, curb cut, but then it just goes nowhere. And so again, I'm talking across, this is the Pinecrest from A, almost needs an A prime, because there's, you know, that at that A prime area, it just needs to connect to something, because it's right there where you've got, no, yeah, there's where your cursor is, right there at the end there. It needs to connect to something. It connects to dirt and woods and a curb that you jump down into that bump out area. So I just was going to say, as I saw this picture, I think we needed an A prime there is something that needs attention.
Let's all make a note of that.
And I guess while I'm talking, again, it was, I love the pictures. I love the way you did that. Jose, so I sent in, I know, a list of things from, you know, for the list. Are we at some point in the agenda going to go through all the points that everyone has sent through?
Yeah, definitely. We
Okay.
do have that as actually that's the main part of our meeting tonight, is to kind of build on that and see where you know, maybe things can be enhanced, and from some of the suggestions that the group has shared so far.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Okay, Gary, I know you had a hand up as well.
I just had a comment that I was very encouraged by the officer's connection with VDOT, or perspective, to get perspective feedback. I'm hoping that we can get some encouraging information from that, because it was so hard for the others to really make that connection. That was my only comment. So
Thank you, Gary.
good job.
And I know we have Shamley, and I know Jan has her hand up, and I know Shamley in our office also can coordinate with VDOT as well on some of these things. So yeah, we'll definitely do that. Jan, I see you have a virtual hand up.
Yes, I do. I do. Thank you. Wonderful, wonderful presentation, Officer Harito. I'm very impressed. I love the steps. Um, is there any way that Pinecrest can connect to the other Pinecrest? It seems to me that if you go on Fox Mill, there's Pinecrest, and if there were a way to connect that, bring that through the woods and connect them, seems to me that would be, kind of a great idea, but I know there are problems doing that. Um, what is the impediment to removing the cars? Um, is there one? Is there any way that you could find the owner and ask them to move them or get rid of them? And the crosswalk, I think, is the key here. If we could get the crosswalk working between the two, that would be a fantastic idea. And also, I don't know if there are any speed bumps on Pinecrest or not. So those are the things, that the crosswalk, getting rid of the cars, and possibly having Pinecrest go through even as a path to the other Pinecrest. That would make it easy to get to Giant. So those are my suggestions. I love your steps. I love your presentation and visuals. And thank you so much. And thank you, Jose, for the link, and and also for sending it to me.
Thank you, Jan. Thank you for the kind words. I know Robin had a hand, and then maybe we could circle back with, I think Shamley wanted to make a comment real quick. Go ahead, Robin.
Thank you. Oh yes, I'm also on Team Officer Harita. That was a great presentation, and I'm on board with the steps. I did want to clarify one point. So the cutout area where the cars are parked, so there's new cars every day. People are using it as a parking lot because there are what I've been told from my communications with VDOT is that if there are no lines and there is pavement, then people are allowed to park there. So that's what's going on with that situation. I'm sure there are cars that get abandoned there too, but every time I go, there's different cars or people doing car work there. That's what I've seen.
Okay. If I could speak to that area really quick with the vehicles being parked there. Yes. They are in an influx of new cars, and sometimes they do get abandoned. I should say maybe they're being worked on as well. And to address two questions at once, in order to clear out that area, we'd have to look at, just like you said, whether VDOT's saying that's allowed to be a parking area. And then we have to look at the impact that it's having at the area and if that's beneficial to it. It appears to me that we do have a lot of parking that is available along Glade Drive and also Pinecrest Drive. There's parking on the sides of the road. Again, we're not prohibited. I have helped another community, or I should say actually Board of Supervisor Faust's area, with a blighted area, which was essentially a larger area, which we had vehicles that were coming and going, abandoned, and being worked on. The issue there was excessive amounts of trash, the working on vehicles, which is not allowed, and then that was, of course, parked on county-owned property. So we had similar but yet varying issues. There is a process that we go along with the removal if it comes to that point where, yes, the vehicles are to be removed by by the Board of Supervisors. If they were to make that call along with VDOT and come to that conclusion, then there is a process of identifying those vehicles, giving them time to move it. Typically, what we did in the other situation was that the Board of Supervisors, presented a just small slip of paper, just helping to give people a heads up that this area is now going to be used for community means instead of parking, to give them that time to find the additional parking, park it on the side of the road or at their homes. And then, of course, we would answer any questions along with the Board of Supervisors about that area. This is not a large area, but they are packing a lot of vehicles in there. So that might make it more simple that it's not a large physical area. But there's steps that I can certainly share with everybody and Board of Supervisor Alcorn's office. If that decision is made, that is the solution, is to clear it out, whether, whatever you decide to do with the area, if the vehicles need to be removed or forewarned that the area will be used differently. So I'd be happy to share those steps. And then no, there's no speed bumps on Pinecrest Road, where, especially where you'd like that crosswalk. That was just an option I threw out there. I'm not sure if it's possible, but we all thinking toward that, aren't we? And then last, connecting the Pinecrest path. I don't have any further information on that. I know there are engineering things. Like I said, some red tape is going to be unavoidable. Sometimes they do have trouble digging in the area because of the power lines. We all have this, or the underground lines, excuse me, because we do have an extensive residential area and all the amenities in the area. But again, that's above me, but we can always look at options, can't we?
So let me pipe in with a couple bits of information, because I've been talking with VDOT quite a bit about this area already.
Great.
And so Steve Welch and I have had a lot of conversations about possibilities, but I honestly didn't want to give you all those possibilities initially, because I think you guys can come up with what you want there first. And that's what today's meeting was going to do, is like pull out, these are the problem areas and this is what we'd like to see. But I'd be happy to share with you just a couple ideas that he thought were completely feasible. That's a VDOT right away. And Jose can speak to, I think, the land use in just a moment. I think he's got a great graphic that's going to show what's going on in terms of the Pinecrest extension. Matt, putting a road there line to line. And oh, here you go. Why don't you go ahead and speak to that really quick, Jose, and then I can go back to that little curb out.
Yeah, definitely. I'm happy to talk about this. So yeah, I remember Kim and the group kind of wanted me to share kind of a visual. So just to orient everyone, Southgate is over here at the top of the page. You can see where the tennis courts are. So the Pinecrest pullout is actually right over here, and so a lot of the green is basically rest and association boundaries. And Robin, you remember last year we kind of in our conversations with rest and association, I think Larry Butler kind of like filled in the colors. So what's green is rest and association. Stratton Woods HOA kind of owns this purple. The pink are these individual homeowners that have property that kind of is right adjacent to the right of way. Orange is the Pinecrest cluster, and then this faded orange is where I think Idea Ventions is, and then there's also another parcel over here where there's like another office park type thing. So everything kind of in between here is the Pinecrest right of way that kind of like terminates just right where the entrance for this business campus is, and I'll share this graphic with the group. So I guess this is kind of helpful to kind of understand that there are multiple stakeholders here, and I know that our group has a lot of them involved already, but this is kind of more just to orient as far as where some of these discussions would have to, anything that may impact here, definitely want to get the HOA on board, because we don't want to do something that is going to impact them, as well as individual homeowners that may have like trees or shrubbery, or folks like me that spend a lot of time in my garden, don't want to lose my nice flowers. So that's kind of more or less this graphic in a nutshell. And I can take some questions, but maybe Shamli, maybe you can finish your.
Well, so, when these roads were originally put in a long time ago, there may have been an intent to have them connect, obviously making a Pinecrest on either side. But as development happened in between, that intent went away. There is no plan currently in the county's plans to connect these two roadways. And I think, I mean, if you look at this diagram, there's the property remaining there is not sufficiently wide enough for a road. So you would have to definitely take over property on either side and acquire property rights and go through that if you were going to create a road there. So there may be some other solutions we can put there, but there's not an intention to put a road, and I don't know that it's fully feasible. There may be some underground utilities in that area as well. We'd have to, have them marked out to see what is there. So, are there any questions about this before I go back to the little curb cutout area?
Oh, yes. So if just for the group, if you could tell everyone exactly what the right-of-way is and who owns the right-of-way and maintains it.
That central area.
So the right of way starts basically, you see where these little solid lines, and then it gets a little jagged over here. And then it gets a little, there's a little bit of a curve here, and then it goes down. So usually with development, what happens is developers or whoever the landowners is usually dedicates right of way for road constructions, or usually it could be typically for anything, but I guess this Pinecrest right of way was dedicated for a road, and it's usually given to the county. So it would be, it's not like I can click on this parcel and say Board of Supervisors, but because it's it's recorded as a road, so it would be Fairfax County, and for a road purpose. In general, that's really what it is. And on maintaining it, a lot of these right of ways are, so I'm aware of one in Hunter Mill to the east of the Wheelie Station, Equestrian Park, that has a right of way for a road, and typically, they're left kind of like in their natural state, and it really depends. If there's like a clear a thing that is of concern, I know that the county can look into it. Like, what I shared with Robin before we got started was, on the Fox Mill side of this Pinecrest right of way, she had shared with us that, cars come in, thinking this is like this old dirt path and get near the little playground area. And county staff is exploring trying to get a gate that kind of would deter folks from doing that, and that would allow whoever services those power lines to have access to. So they're looking at costs, and hopefully by the hopefully we can get a more of a bigger update sooner than later on that. Any other questions, or Shamley? I think you had a.
So going back to the if there aren't any other questions, I didn't see anybody's hands, sir.
I've got a hand.
Oh, okay. Hey, go ahead, Andy.
So in summary, to answer Jan's question, there is no plan to extend the Pinecrest bump out south towards Fox Mill.
There's no plan to make a road in there. Let me put it that way.
So no plans to extend that as a road. The Reston Network Analysis Report from 2018 that Tom Besedny and FC DOT put together did talk about extending Pinecrest north from South Lakes Drive to interconnect with Sunrise Valley Drive as another piece of the network to try and ease congestion, et cetera. And that was on the plan.
Yes.
That, I guess, and I sent in a question with my notes to you and Jose as to that certainly would affect the amount of traffic that comes down Pinecrest and then hits that intersection at Pinecrest and Glade. It would have a major impact on that, because I think cars would be taking that as a cut through, avoiding Reston Parkway, et cetera. So when do we have any idea from Tom Besedny and the FC DOT people it was on their list of things that they recommended that are going to happen eventually someday to alleviate congestion as the core grows. Do we have any idea when that's going to happen? This, in our lifetime or in our children's lifetime or
Well,
grandchildren's lifetime?
So if I'm right, and Jose, maybe you know about this, that proposed roadway is adjacent to or cuts through the USGS property. Is that not correct? So
correct.
we can't build a road through their property until they either sell or give us rights, or some such thing happens to create that. At this moment, I mean, there had been a time when USGS was definitely going to sell, and then maybe not, and so that is all in the hands of the U.S. Geological Survey. So when they, if they make a determination on what they will allow in that area, then we can build a road through there. So it is at the moment. So I guess I can't give you a really clean answer because we don't know what they are planning on doing with that parcel of land.
So Fairfax County Department of Transportation has that cut through in their plan as a project. What I think I hear you saying is that there are many factors that are going to cause the timing of that, or are going to affect the timing of that project. And what I also hear you saying is that right now there's no active push by FCDOT to work with USGS to make it happen in a planning time horizon that is something right away that we would have to take into account for this, because
since I don't know every negotiation that FCDOT's doing, so I'm not going to totally say no, they're not talking about it. They may well be talking to them, but my understanding is that that's not a priority area, and that there is not a current discussion going on about that roadway right there and what's going to happen, because that property is not ours to use. It belongs to USGS.
Just as the property on both sides of Soapstone over the tollway isn't ours, but they've been working on that for years. So, and they're still trying. So we'll see what happens with the overpass. That was priority number one. But I haven't seen anything going on.
So the Soapstone overpass, I'm happy to talk with you at another time, but that one actually is much farther along. So.
Sure, no, I completely understand that they've been working on it, but that is the same type of negotiation that would have to go on, and that one's active.
Exactly. So if there are times when the county says, okay, we're going to put in a grid of streets here, and it goes through a building. Now, if the building owner wants to sell, we are absolutely able to go ahead and put in the grid of street that goes through that property. But if the building owner says, no, I am not selling my property to you, we can't just go in and put the street in. So we can have all the best laid plans, but unless a property owner gives us the rights, we can't go in there and do that. So
my Shamley, that, but I guess what I'm looking for, Shamley, was whether this was an active plan, like at the top of Tom Bichetti's list, like the Soapstone overpass is, or if it's pretty far down, and so therefore there's no active planning going on that we know of.
Yeah.
And should this topic be affecting our understanding of what the traffic level will be at Pinecrest and Glade, or no? Really, it's time to leave that alone, and the next traffic study group can deal with that. And it sounds like it's more the latter.
Okay, I am happy to check on that and raise it up and ask them if they are actively doing anything, because as I said, there are a lot of folks in FCDOT, and I don't know if somebody is somewhere working on that. My understanding is that it is very low on their list of priority. It is not anywhere on any list that they have given me, whereas Soapstone Extension is on a list, and we get briefed on that. So if that kind of tells you, oops,
Shamley, I think Robin wants, because
yeah, jump in here because we're talking about plans for things. So I'm going to bring it back to the Pinecrest right-of-way because people were talking about connecting Pinecrest to Pinecrest. So what is in the plans for FCDOT is a pedestrian path. It's been there for quite a long time. And recently, the president of our HOA and I met through the Active Fairfax process with FCDOT, which was very helpful. And so from what I understand about the planning process, there are plans. It's kind of like a wish list. And then and then once things start getting into action, then everyone gets into the nitty gritty of how to get it done, and that's where it gets complicated, and funding has to happen and everything. So yeah, there's a different connection that our HOA would be interested in, which would be the Fox Mill Pinecrest end to Green Range Drive, actually. So whenever that stuff happens, we did recommend that through the process. So hopefully, you know, FCDOT will come back to us and make that happen if that is an appropriate connection, or, you know, just Pinecrest to Pinecrest as a pedestrian, bicycle, multi-use path, which is more in keeping with the reality of the Pinecrest situation and the community values that the county is holding highly, and I think we are too, of trying to move transportation, you know, have an active Fairfax, open on and benefiting the community. So yes, but I think regarding that particular intersection, yeah, we're already seeing the pedestrian and traffic problems there. So there's already a lot to work with. And what Andy, I think I agree with the theme of what Andy's saying is there's so much development going on big picture, which is, you know, really exciting, but also will, there's not going to be less cars going through that intersection. I think is a accurate.
It's a concern, right? So, Andy, I think you had dropped off it while I was talking, so I don't know if you heard, but I will go back to FCDOT and check with them to see if they have any conversations going about that. But as far as I know, that is very low on the list of priorities right now. So,
okay,
I
thank you, Shamali.
And Andy, and then we'll go to Jan. I wanted to actually chime in because I remember last year Robin had reached out to FCDOT about that connection, well, that extension of Pinecrest Road through to Sunrise Valley, and at the time, they know that it's a connection, part of the network as far as, you know, the rest of network analysis, and it's in the comprehensive plan, but that it would be kind of a long-term connection because it's really largely dependent on what the federal government's plans are for the USGS. And I know that they had submitted a nomination to I believe, the Historical Register for that building because it's been there for, well, since Renton was laid out and built. So, you know, if the, you know, federal government wants to do something, I guess, you know, at some point in time, definitely county staff would work with them to make sure that some type of connection was accommodated. You know, and the other caveat is, you know, there's a big stand of mature trees on that alignment as well, on the eastern part of their campus as well. So definitely on that too. Yeah, Andy.
And that makes sense. My only point there was, once, if that's in the next year, in the next 3 years kind of thing, then that affects our Pinecrest Glade intersection very much, and we should be bringing it. If it's a 5 to 10 year type of horizon for that thing, then we probably don't need to worry about it right here, and we'll let the next traffic study group deal with it. But I just wanted to make sure if it was.
We're losing it.
No, definitely agree, and I know. I think. Thanks, Andy. Jan, last comment, and I know Karen just joined us as well.
It doesn't have to be a road. It could be a path. I think the path would be used by everybody to go to that shopping center. So that would really help those people who live in that area. If I'm on the committee for transportation connectivity of the Reston Task Force, and I will bring that up to them about having the road extended to Sunrise Valley Drive, and see if I can't turn them away from that. If that has to happen, I think speed bumps are absolutely essential to slow the traffic down. So that's pretty much, doesn't have to be a road. I'll bring it up to the task force, and speed bumps are really important, as well as crosswalks. Thank you.
Thank you, Jan.
Okay, so
Yeah, go ahead, Shanley.
I just wanted to tell them about the little cutout area before you get into going through it, what
Yeah.
VDOT was willing to do, or, is kind of it up front is saying this makes sense. Obviously, we'd have to go through some processes to get it to completion, but where those cars are right now parked in that little bump out on the south side of Pinecrest and Glade, VDOT, when I talked to them, said it would actually make sense to take that curb and continue it straight across so that Glade goes straight and you would no longer have a little parking area bump out for the cars.
Great.
Then he said, this is where it gets a little more complicated. What do you want to do with that space? Now, we could tear out the asphalt that's there. It's still a VDOT right-of-way area. So anything we put in there is still in a VDOT right-of-way. Now, it could be that Ruston Association can take over that space and continue their trail that ends down into, down to the street, down to one of the sides so that you have the crosswalks, okay? It could be that we make that into a little pocket park.
Great.
Whatever you as a group envision that, that this would be a nice addition to your community would be what we would look for, okay? So the other thing is I did briefly talk with him about three-way stop sign at that place. And I know that's something that Andy had on there, and several of you, I think, had mentioned. They won't put a stop sign to slow traffic as a way of slowing traffic. Okay, that's not what they do it, but they do it based on a lot of other factors. And I was able to convince them because of Southgate being there, Dogwood Elementary, that the number of clusters around and the foot traffic, the children that would be walking in that area. What happens there because of that? He said that it is a really good case to be made for a three-way stop sign there. So I have actually pushed that forward. I told him, I said, I don't want you to do it because we have this group here. And if you guys don't want stop signs, I don't want VDOT to, put them in. But if what you come up with at the end of this is, yeah, that would be a helpful thing, then I am already kind of working with VDOT trying to get them moving on that.
I
So
think that's
the last thing was the parking. I know Officer Harita talked about parking. If you go farther east on Glade, you notice as you're traveling east from Pinecrest on the right side, there's no parking right now. But Steve Welch and I talked about it, and we think that there's a possibility that we can add in some street parking along there. So the vehicles that had been previously parked in that little spot there would still have places to park. So we wouldn't be decreasing parking, but we would make it much more ped bike friendly.
A three-way stop sign would really help. I've turned left onto Glade after meeting at Southgate Community Center, and it can be treacherous. People can come down there speeding, and a three-way stop would be really wonderful there. It's my opinion.
Thank you, Jan. And we don't have to come to like all of us have to be on board on these things. We could come to consensus on some of these items, and I think we got a lot of consensus out of the three-way stop. So I did want to spend I know it's almost 8 o'clock, but if you guys would like to extend the meeting just a little bit, I would like to. I see one nod, one thumb up. That's totally fine. And I kind of wanted to go through kind of the matrix of ideas that I'm kind of populating with you guys.
Okay.
I think we had several comments from the group so far, and I think what's helpful is to kind of categorize the issue. So by the group member and kind of have a matrix and have the opportunity for the group to kind of comment on these. So my goal is to send everything that we presented today to you guys first thing tonight or first thing tomorrow. So some of the issues that Andy had proposed were not just for the intersection, but also for the pullout. So the issue, at this point was the the intersection, and what I did was I kind of categorically did it through the whoever commented. So the solution that Andy proposed was a no parking here to corner sign for the southwest corner of the Glade / Pinecrest intersection to push cars back from the parking right up to the intersection. And acknowledging that it's difficult to see cars oncoming east on Glade. So that kind of builds up for each of these topics. So he also suggested a highlighted crosswalk at Glade in general, bright yellow swatches, an island in the middle with the ped crossing signs, etc. You know, and then what the group kind of already chimed in on and provided some good feedback on, some positive feedback on, is a full three-way stop. Additionally, more pedestrian crossing signs on Glade, both to the east and west of the intersection. So I think we only have two, but it's not like it's not a four-way crosswalk, in each direction. And this one I put on the intersection, but fix the sewer drain on the corner of Glade and Sunrise Valley, as it does not accommodate all the rainwater leading to huge puddles on the corner. And it's dangerous for cars to attempt to avoid it. And then one of his last comments on the intersection was ensure that a crossing guard is in place before and after school at the intersection, just as there is at the Glade and Rosedown Drive intersection in front of the school. So these were some of his suggestions. And then Mike McNamara with RA also said, just quite funnily, to get everyone to scream at VDOT about making a three-way stop. So we can see that there is some general agreement on some of these items. Richard Caballos commented, pave over the pullout section where the cars park and connect a walkable sidewalk with a no car parking sign. Build a type of protective wall or rails to protect the crosswalk from cars driving up and down Glade. And then we kind of get to some more road improvements. Andy kind of suggested full sidewalks on both sides of the road for both Glade and Pinecrest, and that kind of resonates with some of the slides that Officer Harita shared. Especially right across from Southgate Community Center. That sidewalk kind of just ends, and it doesn't really take you anywhere. So what I was really interested in some of the pull-out suggestions that Andy had, kind of acknowledging that there is that RA path, and trying to connect it there, and provide a accessible crosswalk, that leads to somewhere, not nowhere. But also the idea of, from a safety perspective, I think Richard kind of pulled it out on his, but looking at some bollards at the end of Pinecrest and south of Glade to prevent cars from parking there if it's still asphalt there. I think what will end up happening is that folks will, kind of like a reflex. Oh, I can park there, and then if it's like left the way it is today. So we can talk about these, but I was really interested in some of the suggestions for the right of way. So fill in the area and reseed and plant it. I think whether that's native species. I mean, I think these recommendations can be enhanced. So I'm happy to go through all of them, but definitely wanted to get some initial thoughts from the group.
Oh, sure. Jose, do you have the document that I submitted on hand?
No, I don't have that one. Did you send it to me recently?
I sent it to you, I think pretty soon after the last meeting we had.
Let me pull it up. I can't find it.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll have to resend it to you. But basically, I think the commonality with everybody's suggestions, I really like that we're brainstorming, but for the intersection, I think reserving it for multi-use is the major theme. So to change it physically so it's not mistaken as a parking area, and it is a traffic safety area. It's a traffic safe for pedestrians and bicyclists and, you know, people with strollers. That's the goal. So however VDOT, you know, can make it happen. And I really liked Officer Harita's suggestion about, you know, even if it's something simple like a railing or, you know, pots, like have some public art, make it a friendly space, right? Instead of, you know, a dark corner of the woods. So I really liked that. And then as far as the Pinecrest right-of-way goes, I think the major theme is that it's not a road. Let's get it categorized as something other than, you know, a road if possible. And then what that is, you know, really up to, you know, whatever the limits are. But, you know, let's move on with the brainstorming process. But in the document that I'll resend you, I put in some, you know, there's the low end ideas and then the high end ideas. Like you could put a traffic circle in for the Pinecrest right of way, no, the Pinecrest Glade intersection area. Or you could just put in a little barrier as we've been talking about, or the 3-way stop. So really it's about, you know, how much is the county, or are we willing to invest in the area? So that's that. I'm so excited to brainstorm more ideas.
Sorry, I was muted. Thank you, Robin. Any other comments from the group? And feel free to unmute because I can't see everyone's screen at the moment.
Yes, just in regards to the crossing guard at Glade and Pinecrest, I thought I heard we should have a crossing guard there for the kids stationed, along with the intersection at Rosedown. So there's 2 covering that area. And then if we, you know, whatever happens to that area where the cars are parked right now, we still have plenty of options, even if it doesn't turn into something, you know, right away, maybe replant or anything. You know, right away, I mean quickly. We can erect the parking signs, the no parking signs, as long as they're, you know, the approved signs. Then we'll be happy to help enforce that along with our parking enforcement officers. And of course, like I mentioned, that other area out west a little further in our district, we just use that education to keep helping people understand that they can't park there, and it eventually cleared out, very quickly cleared out, because there was that understanding there. So we do have options with that as well. And then we just want to consider that the 3-way stops does sound like a good idea. Keep in mind, and you know, I don't know where this goes from, you know, or I guess more studies would need to be done on it. But if we put in that 3-way stop, it will have effects on the rest of the area. If we think about when the kids start going back to school full time, and the traffic, albeit it might not be a long period of time, might start to back up toward Dogwood and back up toward Reston Parkway.
Right.
So we just have to consider how that might affect it. I know the schools, a lot of the schools are promoting the bus and transportation system, which eases the traffic from the kiss and ride. So that's great for everybody if they, you know, have a good, safe bus ride home. But we'll just have to keep that in mind going forward. But other than that, you know, it might be a good idea. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Officer Harita. And I know Karen joined a little bit late. I did want to give her the opportunity to say a couple things if she has something on. Put her on the spot.
No, actually, I'm just, you know, absorbing all of these great suggestions here. I did have a question though, something that is confused me. Shamali, you were talking about, you know, once if the pullout is gone, then to have on-street parking east of there, but that seems to contradict what Andy was saying about putting no parking from here to corner east of Pinecrest. Am I understanding that right?
Just from me, Karen. So when you're standing at the bump out, looking north on
Right.
Pinecrest, I'm talking about to the left. So cars eastbound, that there are cars that park
okay.
all the way up to the bump out, and it's very difficult to see cars coming
Oh,
eastbound.
you did say southwest, didn't you? Yeah.
And so when I walked down there, there's no
Yeah.
no parking here to corner sign there. And just while I'm talking, Officer
Gotcha.
Harita, there normally is a police officer doing crossing guard duty at the intersection, but some of our parents from Dogwood have said several times there's been no officer during a morning or an afternoon time. Mostly there is, but there's been a few occasions that were reported over to Dogwood that there wasn't. And I just wanted to make that statement so that you knew.
Thank you, Andy.
Checking about.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that was my mistake. You did say Southwest. I was thinking it was the same place that Shamali was talking about. Why was that pull-out area put there to begin with? Was it to access the pathway, or does
No, I
anybody
think
know?
so the part that you might have missed, that originally there was
Okay.
going to be a tie-in for that road all the way through.
Right.
So that may have been where, they had just, put something there. It is VDOT right of way there. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's the best guess that we could have, is that they, just kind of put that bump out, and then the intent to build the road went away. So
Keto.
if we do put those stop signs at that intersection, one of the things that Steve had suggested would be that obviously there'd be no parking if that curb bump comes all the way out so it matches the other sides. There would be no parking all along there, and we can extend that however far we feel so that there's a good line of sight for the crosswalks that are there. So that should help with Andy's concern, which I agree with him. From that side, with the cars coming around, it's really hard to see.
That's
Yeah.
excellent and very practical and totally achievable. So would be a great first step, Chomley.
Thank you.
I was wondering, when the kids leave Southgate Community Center, do they actually walk to the corner with the cross guard there to help them across the street, or do they simply just cut across to the path?
I can answer. I mean, I can answer that. They usually don't use the crosswalk there at Glade and Pinecrest. Either they just if a crossing guard is there, of course, but usually they don't.
Okay, that's what I thought. So all the more reason to have a crosswalk there, because they're not going to go to the corner.
Oh, and I watched the school traffic come through, the kids walking with the crossing guard there, just because I was curious about the volume and the traffic patterns. And the kids, they come to the corner and they cut diagonally across the intersection to get to the RA path.
I had a question. I mean, I had my hand raised, but I just want to make sure. So I'm trying to understand. Is it more what's the word? Well, instead of a stop sign, is it more visual and safer, or is it just the cost of it versus putting a stoplight there?
Ah,
Like I feel like a stoplight is more, that would that's truly visual and I mean nobody, well of course people run them whatever, but I'm saying what's the benefit, what's versus one over the other. Like I feel like a stoplight is a lot more like clear and like, look, this is a stoplight versus just a stop sign. So I don't know if that was an option or if that's a possibility.
We can certainly raise that up to VDOT or to FCDOT. Obviously, a traffic light is much more expensive, and they usually don't put it in intersections unless there's a fair bit of traffic. You're talking a lot more expense and land use take. So like, I don't know how much space there is in the right of way on those corners. You could easily put a stop sign, but to put a traffic light, you'd have to have more room to have the arm come up over the road. I don't, we can certainly ask them. I would probably say it would just be orders of magnitude of expense more, and there may not be enough traffic after a traffic study is done at that intersection to warn it. But, I mean, like, again, that's something that we could certainly have them take a look at.
There's also those
Cool, thank you.
crosswalks they put in front of South Lakes High School that are flashing when there's a pedestrian present.
Yep, I like those.
Oh,
Ah,
Yeah,
Mhm.
Those are hawks,
signals.
right?
Yeah, yes. So those are, pedestrian activated signals that just flash when somebody's getting ready to cross to give you warning. And we have those going in certain places, and again, this could be someplace that would warrant something like that, especially because of the curve. We could, that's what this is about. So, if that's something you want us to consider, we might, we could certainly look at that.
And by that, I mean, this list is just an initial go at the brainstorming. So we can include a hawk, let's put
Yeah,
in
I mean,
that stoplight. I mean,
put it all
this
in
is,
there.
Put it all in, yeah.
yeah.
Karen, go ahead.
Is Brandy, are you still on? Yes, you are. I was just wondering, stoplight versus a three-way stop, what would be the difference in the impact on backing up traffic? From the school?
That's what I was thinking about too. I'd have to look at the overall distance on the map again. Again, VDOT and FCDOT would be the best people to consult on that. The population, the area is growing, of Reston is growing every year. So I don't know if that would, that's in my consideration, is it's going to back up to Dogwood, most likely.
Yeah.
And then how do we mitigate, because I did a consult for them too, just fixing their kiss and ride. So it was a little more efficient to get people in, out, and off the road. So that's, all things to be considered. Now, the traffic light, they would just have to time that. If that was an option, they would just have to put the timing on
Very
there.
carefully.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very carefully to let the
Yeah.
traffic through. So it would have to have its custom timing. Now, I don't know how that would affect having a crossing guard there. They may say then we don't need a crossing guard at that location because the lights would be confusing or whatnot. So there are considerations. All of these changes have effects, most of them positive, but these are definitely considerations we need to take into play. But the timing of a traffic light could
Would be
be
crucial.
toggled. Yes. Mhm.
Yeah.
and then Jose, you said you wanted some more ideas for the Pinecrest right-of-way area.
Yeah, I mean, and I know that it's 8:12, and I want to respect everyone's time. I know Gary had a quick question. Gary, go ahead. Or comment.
Sorry, I just wanted to ask that you capture the comment about the theme of repurposing the right-of-way area as it gets near Pinecrest Road, that the bump out that Robin had raised earlier. I think we have a consensus building
Good.
on that.
Good. It's great. I mean, and we can, like I said, we can come to consensus on some of these ideas, and let's say we're missing something, we can always build on these as a group. But yeah, Robin, go ahead on I know you're going to send me some information on the right of way. I know we've talked about kind of like a linear park at one point there, where folks can gravitate a little bit more towards nature, and maybe that maybe what it is, and this is just me trying to, maybe that right away needs its own like vision, where we can tie in some ideas and then we can expound on those with some recommendations there as well.
Oh, sure. So yeah, I'll definitely send you the document I put together. I'm sorry it didn't come through. But what I did was I came up with some along the same theme. So that area right now it's very peaceful, it's very wooded. So it's kind of like a greenway and an unofficial recreational space for people right now. So Reston being a planned community and the focus on planning in Fairfax County in general, it just seems that it's time. Development's an iterative process, so it's not going to be a road. It's never going to be a road. Let's make it something else. So like what that could be, right? What the vision is, is we're coming up with in this group. So really, I think the values that I would like to see in the development of that area are nature and, human wellness. And so like I mentioned before, and, we came up with it by looking at the maps, is Fairfax County currently owns that land already. There is a similar, I want to say it's similar. Of course, everything's different. But in Springfield, FCDOT just sent out a notice that they're developing a path that leads mostly to one of the new metro stops in that area. And it just seemed like very similar to the Pinecrest right-of-way. And so I referenced that project. And so I think a path, like a nature path, would be really great. And it could be very simple, just very straightforward. Or, it could be great, like meandering nature trail with like public art. So it could be really nice, depending on, what the investment level is. But
No, that's wonderful.
me in. I dream big.
Yeah.
Well, maybe actually, this is not to tie in the review of the Racing Comprehensive Plan, but Jan's a part of that, and they recently actually kind of looked at some planning principles and revised them. Maybe it'll be beneficial for the group to kind of share those, and maybe we can kind of build the vision for this right of way in line with the planning principles.
Absolutely, because they're really looking at a lot of parks, linear parks, lots of parks around Reston, and I think that they would jump on the chance to have a park in that area. I'll bring it up to them, definitely.
Oh, thank you. That sounds great.
Well, I'll share the recent version of the planning principles to everybody, and
Great.
And maybe Robin, since you've kind of interested in the vision thing, and I do want to respect everyone's time. I know we went past eight a long time ago. Maybe someone in the group, it doesn't have to be you, but maybe can work off of some of those planning principles together and kind of come up with a kind of like a vision for the right of way that kind of,
right.
And then we can actually have these kind of recommendations to say, it should include this and it should include that, and it can inform the vision statement as the recommendations come together.
Right.
Sure.
Sounds good.
Yeah, so I guess after you send everyone, we'll have everyone's emails, and then I would love to work with you guys on that process.
And me too.
Mm-hmm.
I am about to run out of battery, so if I disappear quickly, my phone has died.
Understood, Jan. And we'll definitely wrap up in the next minute or two. Were there any additional comments? I know Andy had to jump off, but before we end for the evening, Karen?
Yeah, first of all, a little belated, but I wanted to apologize for joining late tonight. I was on another Zoom meeting. And I don't know if Andy talked about this at the beginning. This is a little off topic, but it involves the neighborhood that we're dealing with, about the community cleanup days coming up. Has that been discussed tonight?
No.
No, but I know about it.
Okay, you know about it. Okay, yeah. Well, this is a joint effort with RA and the police department and Southgate and Dogwood Elementary. What we're going to do next week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, is have Community Cleanup Day unsupervised. Stop by Southgate from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m., pick up a trash bag. And the area that we want covered is Glade from Reston Parkway to Sunrise Valley. Pick up trash. You can leave your full trash bags on the curb if you're not anywhere near Southgate, or you can take them back to Southgate, and Mike McNamara's crew will swing by daily to pick those up. That's the unsupervised. And then on Saturday, the 29th, from 9:30 till noon, Hob Rock with RA is organizing supervised cleanups.
Okay.
And she is, contacting her volunteer list. She's already working with the South Lakes leadership team. They're going to be volunteering and helping to clean up around Dogwood School. But This will be in RA News on Friday and on social media. Maybe it's already on social media, but spread the word throughout your community
Great.
that this is happening.
Will do.
Thank you, Karen. No, that's wonderful way to end the meeting. Any additional comments before we end tonight? All right, thank you guys so much for this time. I'm really excited for the recommendations, and what I'll do, because I know Dave didn't join us tonight, I'll type up the notes, and remember this is being recorded, so I'll share the link with everybody. So if someone missed something, they can easily catch right back up once I send the notes out. Well, thank you guys so much for your time. Have a wonderful evening. Stay safe, and I'll definitely be in touch with all of you guys. Take care.
Thank you, Jose. Thank you, buddy.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you
Thanks,
so
Jose.
much,
Bye-bye.
Jose.
Great group.